I booked that table 3 weeks in advance, not because it was expensive, not because it was the best seat in the house, but because it was the exact table where I proposed to my wife 10 years ago, right by the glass wall, overlooking the marina where the sunset melts into the water like fire. Tonight was our anniversary, quiet, meaningful, personal. But the second we walked in, I knew something was wrong. I looked toward the window, and my stomach dropped. A woman, late 40s, oversized sunglasses still on indoors, heavy jewelry, that I own this place posture was sitting at our table, laughing loudly, snapping her fingers at the waiter like he was a servant. The reserved sign with my name, gone. If you've ever dealt with someone entitled like this, comment below right now. I want to know your worst experience, because what happened next, you won't believe it. I walked over calmly. Hi, I think there's been a mistake. This table was reserved under my name. She didn't even look at me properly, just slowly sipped her wine and said, "We prefer this view." Prefer? I blinked. I reserved it weeks ago. Now she looked at me, that slow scan from shoes to face. The kind that silently says you're not important, then she smiled. "We're on the HOA board," she said confidently. "We're very familiar with how things work around here." I almost laughed. HOA board in a private marina restaurant. The waiter rushed over, clearly stressed. "Sir, I'm so sorry." There was confusion with seating. "No confusion," she cut him off sharply. "We asked for this table, it suits us better." The waiter tried again. "Ma'am, this table was reserved." She raised a manicured finger. "Do you know who I am?" There it was. My wife gently squeezed my arm. She hates confrontation, but this wasn't about ego. It wasn't even about the view anymore. It was about respect. I turned to the waiter calmly. "Could we speak to the manager?" She scoffed loudly. "You're really going to make a scene over a table?" I looked her straight in the eye. "You already did." The restaurant had started getting quiet, people pretending not to stare. Phones slightly tilted. Everyone loves real-life drama. The manager arrived within minutes, professional, polite. He checked the reservation system and immediately confirmed it. "Yes, sir. This table is reserved under your name." Then he turned to her. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to move to the table we prepared for you." She leaned back like a queen, refusing to leave her throne. "No, we like this one." "Find them another." The manager's smile tightened. "I'm afraid I can't do that." She laughed, actually laughed. "I sit on the HOA board in this district. I can make one call and create inspections you don't want." Now listen carefully. This is where it gets interesting, because this wasn't just random entitlement. This was someone who genuinely believed neighborhood power translated everywhere. And here's what she didn't know: this restaurant, this entire marina property, it wasn't just sentimental to me. It was part of an investment portfolio I quietly acquired 2 years ago. Through a holding group, no public announcements, no flashy ownership reveal. I wasn't just a guest tonight, technically. I owned the building she was threatening, but I stayed silent, because sometimes the most powerful move is letting someone dig their own hole. If you're enjoying this story so far, hit like right now. Trust me, part 2 gets even crazier. And subscribe so you don't miss the ending, because what she says next changes everything. The manager gave her one final warning. "Ma'am, I need you to relocate to your assigned table." She stood up abruptly, chair screeching against the floor. "You can't remove me." "I have rights." The manager's tone stayed calm. "Not on private property when you're refusing service policy." She smirked and pulled out her phone. "Fine, let's escalate. I'll call code enforcement about your parking violations, and maybe liquor control should recheck your license." Gasps, whispers. The entire restaurant was locked in now. The manager didn't panic. He didn't argue, he simply looked at me, and I gave him the smallest nod. He turned back to her. "Ma'am, at this point, I'm formally asking you to leave." She folded her arms. "No." Pause. Then she said the one sentence she thought would scare everyone. "Call the police, I dare you." The manager calmly pulled out his phone and dialed. For the first time all night, her confidence flickered, because suddenly, this wasn't about a view anymore, and she still had absolutely no idea who she was trying to intimidate. The moment the manager dialed, the entire restaurant shifted. You could feel it. That heavy silence when everyone knows something big is about to happen. She was still standing there, arms crossed, chin lifted like she had just won something. But I noticed it, that tiny crack in her confidence. Her husband leaned toward her and whispered, "Maybe we should just move." She snapped at him again. Sit down. The manager calmly stepped aside after finishing the call. Officers are on their way. She laughed loudly, looking around at the people watching. Good, I'd love to explain how I'm being harassed for simply enjoying dinner. Enjoying dinner. At someone else's reserved table? Interesting definition. Minutes passed. They felt longer than they were. The tension was thick. My wife looked at me nervously. I gave her a reassuring nod. Because now it was time. 2 police officers walked in. Calm, professional, not dramatic. They approached the manager first, listened carefully, then turned to the woman. Ma'am, we've been informed you're refusing to leave private property after being asked. She immediately switched tone. Softer, polished, victim mode activated. Oh, officers, this is ridiculous. We were seated here. They're targeting us because I sit on the HOA board. One of the officers blinked. Ma'am, that's not relevant here. Her smile twitched. The manager showed them the reservation system. My name, the timestamp, the table number, everything clear. The officer turned back to her. You've been asked to move to another table and refused? She hesitated. Well, yes, because this one is better. The second officer spoke calmly. That's not how reservations work. Murmurs spread across the restaurant. Phones were no longer subtle now. She looked around and realized something terrifying. No one was on her side. The officer gave her one last chance. Ma'am, you can either relocate to the assigned table or leave the premises. Her pride made the decision for her. I'm not moving. The officer nodded once. Then you'll need to leave. I'm not leaving either. There it was, the exact moment ego destroyed logic. The officer stepped closer. Ma'am, if you continue refusing, you'll be trespassing. She actually laughed again. You can't trespass a taxpayer. The officer didn't even react. This is privately owned property, and that's when I finally spoke, calm, clear, controlled. Actually, officer, if it helps clarify things, I represent the ownership group for this property. The silence that followed, unreal. Her head snapped toward me. What? The manager stepped forward. He's correct. I didn't brag, didn't smirk, just held her gaze. The building, the marina complex, including this restaurant. It's under my investment group. Her face drained of color. No, that's not. It is. The officer looked between us. So you're the property representative? Yes, and that changed everything. Because now this wasn't just a seating dispute. It was the legal property owner formally requesting her removal. The officer turned back to her. Ma'am, you are now officially trespassing. Last warning. Her husband stood up quickly. Honey, please, but she doubled down. This is abuse of power. Irony. The officers gently took her by the arms. She resisted just enough to make it worse. Click. The sound of handcuffs echoed through the restaurant. Gasps, whispers. A few people even clapped quietly. She looked at me as they guided her toward the exit. You'll regret this, I simply replied. You should have just taken the other table. As she was escorted out, her husband followed in stunned silence. The restaurant slowly returned to normal. Conversations resumed. The tension dissolved. The manager turned to me. I'm incredibly sorry about this evening. I smiled. It's fine. Just make sure our reserved sign stays put next time. We were finally seated, at our table. The sunset hit the water exactly the way I remembered. My wife squeezed my hand and whispered, You never told me you owned this place. I smiled softly. You never asked. If you made it this far, hit like right now. And comment below, would you have revealed ownership sooner or let her dig her own hole like I did? I'm curious. And if you enjoy stories where entitlement meets instant karma, subscribe, because trust me, this wasn't even the wildest HOA story I've dealt with. That night wasn't ruined. It was unforgettable. And all because someone thought they deserved a better view. Sometimes the best view is watching karma work, fire,